Seriously though, while this book follows the narrative of a pretty neurotic guy that somewhat parallels a sitcom at times, in the book Crime and Punishment and through the main character's narrative, Dostoevsky tackles serious societal concepts like morality, social isolation, human reasoning, and other themes, which in today's world still pertains. However, for this Crime and Punishment crash course, most of the content will be focused on a modern world synthesis of the book, analysis on the character development, along with thematic connections. Given that, expect some memes, edited sound effects, and other interesting things.
Ready? Begin.
Starring
Raskolnikov, a poor and handsome ex-scholar who turns psychotic and learns to take care of society by killing people.
Razumihin, the oblivious best friend who crushes on the only attractive female in sight, who also happens to be his bestie's sister, often found spoon-feeding tea to his mentally ill friend, Raskolnikov.
Marmeladov, he's drunk, like all the time. Then he dies.
Sonia, her dad was the drunk one. Then he died. But he was using her money anyway. Zamitov, the only sane person in this entire book.
Dunya, the love interest for literally every man, except Raskolnikov because, incest.
Double feature! Katerina and Pulcheria, the weeping and screaming mothers. Here is Raskolnikov.
Hi there, I'm poor. Is this hat too good for me?
Just a little. As we see here, Raskolnikov is a worrier. He's about to head to a pawnbroker's house.
This house ugly AF. So is my hat. Does this mean I'm ugly AF too? What is this life?
Raskolnikov sells this lady some stuff. She's kind of mean. He notices she's loaded and gets kind of jealous. So he decides he's gonna murder her now. But first, Raskolnikov gotta get drunk at the tavern.
Bruh, so glad you're here. I don't know who you are, but I'm gonna offload all my life's problems onto your already borderline psychotic shoulders. Anyways, so listen, my life kind of sucks. My wife doesn't love me. My children are kind of a mess. And my only daughter's a prostitute. But, how's your day going? I don't really care. I love my family, but I also love alcohol. So, priorities. Am I right, bruh? I know, right?
Raskolnikov follows Marmeladov home and gets shocked by how intense his wife is. He sees the children in the house and freaks out some more. Feeling bad, he leaves some money on a windowsill.
This is smart. I'm a good person. Wait, hold up. I'm kind of poor. I suck.
Raskolnikov mopes some more. He receives a letter.
Oh, dear boy. Dunya got fired by my boss because he wanted things, but, everything's fine because she got a new man, and he treats her like trash, but it's fine. Don't worry. He's gonna give a job to you. It's fine. What kind of man is this? Not for my sister.
Raskolnikov reasons with himself about why the pawnbroker deserves to die. He overhears the pawnbroker's pregnant sister at the market saying she'll be gone at 7. Sounds like it's murder o'clock. He had a disturbing dream about trying to protect a brutally beaten horse. It was a painful experience, almost like his brain was telling him that he's not a violent person and maybe shouldn't kill the pawnbroker.
Wow, look at this axe. Perfect killing material.
But first a nap. Looks like Raskolnikov has a bad case of senioritis.
Murder time.
In a nervous fright, Raskolnikov sneaks up on the pawnbroker in her apartment and kills her. But then good old Prager's sister shows up and he's like, oof, gotta kill 2 more, I guess.
I'm sure nobody will care if I just get rid of these 2 as well.
At this point, Raskolnikov is a wreck. He's frantically washing blood off of everything and forgets to rob the woman. He took no money, but managed to shove a few trinkets in his pockets.
Oh dear me. Did I make an uh-oh? Was I not meant to kill people? I better scrub all this blood off before someone finds out.
He goes back home and faints.
Yeet. So in this first part, we see the beginning of Raskolnikov's unstable mental state and his ashamed emotional side because of his circumstances. While he is an epitome of a failure, since he's a dropout, has no job, no money, no wife, no children, and no happiness, he still wants to be seen as a valued member of society. We see that during this desperate moment, his need to express this desire in somehow better society leads him to believe that it's morally alright to act immorally, as long as the action has good intention. Although he becomes a ruthless, clumsy murderer by the end of this part, we see glimpses of kindness in his personality, from giving Sonia's family money to helping a poor girl on the street. These acts, however, seem to contrast with the ruthless character he tries to be, which play on his dual character.
Last episode, Raskolnikov killed not 1, not 2, but 3 people.
There is still blood on my clothes, like everywhere. Better get to washing.
Little does Raskolnikov know this is just the beginning of his punishment. Raskolnikov gets called to the police office. So, the police officers had just called Raskolnikov in about some debt he owed to his landlady, but Raskolnikov freaked out anyway. After awakening, the police officers start asking Raskolnikov about what he thought of the murders.
Yeah, so, I'm not feeling that good. Okay, bye.
Huh, that was weird. Anyway, I wonder who committed the murders. Let's keep looking.
Raskolnikov returns home and realizes that he forgot to hide all the random things he stole. He tries to figure out the best place to hide everything. River? Nah. Under a rock?
Now that Raskolnikov is a ruthless murderer, let's see what's hanging with his best friend Razumin. You see, Raskolnikov is kind of an awkward person and forgot how to communicate with basically all of humankind, so this exchange is bound to be awkward. Hey man, long time no see. Do you want a job? I heard you're poor. I can help. Wait, what just happened?
Raskolnikov gets home and passes out of exhaustion. But we haven't quite gotten rid of Razumin yet.
Drink the tea, brother. Drink it. Drink it now. I bought you new clothes and I'm taking care of your rent now and stuff, but I'm kind of worried about you, man, so I brought you a doctor.
I didn't ask you to do that.
Suddenly, a strange man appears. It's Luzin, Donia's fiancé from the letter. You know, the cocky, self-centered one that wants to marry Donia because she's poor and he can exploit her for it. Yeah, that one. Raskolnikov hates him and kicks him out immediately.
You little piece of shit! Get out!
Razuma is shocked by Raskolnikov's sudden burst of energy and decides to let him sleep. He leaves, promising to return in the morning.
Raskolnikov was scampering about the town in a daze when he ran into a pub and met the detective Zametov. He basically doles out a full confession, detailing what he would have done if he was the ruthless murderer. Here's the kicker. He was...
Okay, man, that's a little weird to say. Okay.
Fired up from confessing, Raskolnikov finds himself running once again, this time right into the arms of his bestie, Marmeladov.
Death, dying, help me.
Oh my god, quick. I know this drunk guy. I know where he lives. Let's go, team.
Katerina yells at her husband right up to the end. The little girl, Polenka, goes up and thanks him and asks for his contact info so her sister can call him. Raskolnikov heads back home once again. At this point, Razumin thinks Raskolnikov is clinically insane and thinks that Raskolnikov has begun to think he himself murdered the women after hearing so much talk about it. But of course, Raz stays loyal to his bestie and doesn't believe it. Back at the house.
I'm here.
Mom, calm down.
In this part, Raskolnikov is consumed with guilt about the murders and keeps seeing signs that people know he murdered the women, though everyone is oblivious. While Raskolnikov is angry at Luzin for being self-centered and only wanting to benefit himself in any endeavor, Raskolnikov shows some hypocrisy because he is doing the same thing, since he subconsciously is self-centered regarding his sister's situation. The only person that is remotely onto Raskolnikov is Zametov, the detective, and he too has no idea what Raskolnikov is thinking. The confession he gives was somewhat an expression of his extreme mental state, along with his subconscious desire to be found, because a logical individual wouldn't want to go to the police and play on the fine line between innocence and guilt.
All right, Ben, I know you like to say facts don't care about your feelings, but I want to tell you some facts about your feelings.
In this episode, we have some fun.
Raskolnikov gets mad at his mom and sister for showing up and bugging him, then goes off on Donia about marrying Luzin.
Luzin is terrible. I hate him. Leave him. It's me, your loving brother, or that snake.
A drunk Razumin takes the two women to a place to stay the night and promises frequent updates about Raskolnikov's state of being,
including a drop-in from Zasimov, the doctor.
Razumin badmouths Luzin because he's going to marry the girl that he's crushing on.
Hint. It's Dunya.
Razumin tells the women that Raskolnikov has a dual personality of sorts, and Donia and Pulpecheria show Razumin the letter from Luzin that basically also says it's me or him. And in response, Raskolnikov is in a super fake cheery mood today.
I'm so sorry about yesterday. I didn't know who I was. Who am I? Oh, dear heavens. Son of God, you're back to normal.
Then Donia explains her reasons to marry Luzin.
We've got to have money.
That self-righteous man-whore doesn't even know. Who the hell does he think he is? I hate him. You can't marry him. He's just all bad, like very bad, like kind of not good, like horrible. Enters Sonia. Rask immediately feels bad for not defending her and her involvement in prostitution.
Hi, you guys should come to my drunk dad's funeral, please.
After Sonia leaves and Dunya and Pulcheria go off to gossip about something or other, Raskolnikov decides he wants his watch back from the dead pawnbroker, and so they go to the inspector Porfiry's house. So, Raskolnikov, I heard that you wrote this whole article pardoning people who murder other people because they're, extraordinary? That's a little shifty, bro. Like, do you care to explain? Well, yeah, I seriously think that some people are just better than others, and that those peoples can break the morals of society willy-nilly. But anyway, I'm just gonna go spend a few more minutes wasting your time and making myself look more guilty by talking about how I relate to Napoleon. Very interesting. Did you see any painters when you dropped off the watch you want so bad right now? Yeah, no. Yeah. He knows.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Then the weirdest thing happens. As Raskolnikov is running away again, he follows some man that was looking for him, and the man points to him and calls him murderer. Raskolnikov is shooketh beyond compare. He seems to pass out again and has this hallucination that he's killing pawnbroker again, while she just demonically laughs in his face.
Stop it. I'm gonna pee.
We see Raskolnikov begin to develop his thoughts to justify the murder, saying that he is an extraordinary man, and is thus okay to murder. However, as he realizes, Raskolnikov is not much of an extraordinary man as he begins to emotionally crumble, because he can't speak freely with family and friends anymore. He fakes being well, and laughs uneasily to Porfiry and Razumihin to cope with the guilt. When Raskolnikov is alone once again, we see the psychosis manifest itself in another hallucination and his obsessive nature kicking in. After the hallucination with the pawnbroker, not even the readers can trust Raskolnikov's senses, which emphasizes his very human vs very ruthless sides.
In this episode, Svidrigailov shows up and is like,
Bro, I used to love Donya, but now I don't. But I want to give her money and break off her engagement with that brat Luzin, just like Raskolnikov wants, eh, brother?
Raskolnikov gives a negative reaction and basically kicks him out. Svidrigailov is Dunya's ex-employer who made moves on her while she was married, and now that his wife is dead, he's coming back into her life.
The infamous dinner meeting happens. Raskolnikov and Razumihin take a seat, and Luzin almost instantly finds a way to peeve them and Donya and Pulcheria by mentioning Svidrigailov's appearance in town. Luzin goes off on them, saying he should not have to deal with the annoyance of her silly family, and that if she still wanted to marry him, she would have to pick. Donya,
Smart girl.
rejects him and puts her family first.
As soon as Luzihin storms out,
Raskolnikov suddenly decides he wants to leave his family. He realizes that Razumin is going to take care of them and has absolved him of any responsibility.
NANI? お前はもう死んでいる。
you know, man. And now you know I'm bloodthirsty murder.
Anyway, Raskolnikov goes to meet Sonia and explain himself.
Turns out Sonia is super religious and hopes that this is enough to save everyone in her life.
Think you might be taking me.
Plot twist! Sonia was Bible BFFs with Lizaveta. She feels sad about the murder and wonders who killed her.
Raskolnikov commands Sonia to read a portion of the Bible, the story of Lazarus. She's super confused as to why and stammers and then reads the whole thing super passionately. Raskolnikov offers to run away together.
It'll just be you and me, baby. We can run away from all this terror and despair. You may not be pure, but you're the love of my life. You'll know who killed your Bible group friend pretty soon, baby. Okay, bye.
Oh my goodness. Raskolnikov goes to meet Porfiry Petrovich, the magistrate in charge of the murder case. Porfiry is trying to ease into talking to Raskolnikov as if he knows something about the murder and is trying to trap him, but it just seems like our boy is overthinking everything. Again.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
Porfiry describes how he would question a murder suspect, then proceeds to question Raskolnikov in this exact same way. This drives Raskolnikov insane and he explodes.
Am I a suspect, man? Just tell me, you fool!
Nikolai drops in. Nikolai, the painter accused of the murder. He drops some earrings that he found that also happen to be what Raskolnikov, our sloppy little murderer, dropped when he was hiding. Raskolnikov is shown out because now they have a prime suspect with a confession.
That was a close one.
Ah, what a nice day. In this section, Raskolnikov questions his sanity for the first time. Through the meeting with Porfiry, Raskolnikov seems super guilty the whole time, and doesn't seem to realize that his psychotic nature is showing. It's a shock that Porfiry doesn't know that Raskolnikov is guilty yet. We can also see that Luzin needs Dounia more than Dounia needs Luzin. Ever since the 3,000 ruble inheritance, Dounia probably realized her self-worth, and that she didn't need a self-centered maniac of a husband to provide for her.
When there's too much drama at school, all you gotta do is walk away.
In this episode, Luzin is freaking out about Dounia blatantly rejecting him. But it's okay, Dounia wasn't that pretty anyway.
And I need you. And I miss you.
As part of the plan to get Dunya back, Luzin invites Sonia to his apartment and offers her 10 rubles. Then Katerina hosts Marmeladov's funeral, which none of his friends actually showed up to.
Then Luzin shows up to the funeral and accuses Sonia of stealing 100 rubles, and Sonia has a meltdown.
Turns out the money was in Sonia's pocket, but Andrei, Luzin's roommate, uncovers that Luzin framed her and put it there while she was leaving. Raskolnikov and Andrei work together to save her name and diminish Luzin's pride.
Then Sonia freaks out some more and runs away, and Raskolnikov follows her. Raskolnikov and Sonia do some more soul-searching in each other's eyes. Then Raskolnikov drops the bomb that he killed her Bible friend Lizaveta, plus like 2 others, but it's fine.
Raskolnikov and Sonia discover that Katerina is begging on the streets for money and food with her children.
You stupid children! Beg for mother! Dance, you imps! These kids came from rich family and look what the government has done. My husband was killed by the government!
Nazi, la 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 la, money, give us the money, please. I need money.
Mommy, I'm scared.
Mom,
No! Stop it! Sing!
Mom, I just need to sing.
Please, we need money!
Money.
Deja vu, I just been in this place before.
Then Katerina falls into the streets and dies.
I have died.
Wow, okay.
Suddenly, Svidrigailov shows up and is like, here's some more money to give to the orphan children and Sonia instead of Dounia. Svidrigailov knows that Raskolnikov is the murderer because he heard the intense conversation between Sonia and Raskolnikov earlier.
Why would you do that? We're in the end game now.
In this episode, Raskolnikov thinks about Svidrigailov knowing his secret.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer?
In all this drama, Raskolnikov misses Katerina's funeral and instead wakes up in the bushes outside Sonia's house. As he makes his way home, Razumihin meets him and gets mad at him for not showing up to Katerina's funeral.
After that confrontation with the investigator, Porfiry, they have a normal small talk for a while, and then suddenly Porfiry starts implying that the painter is not the murderer, despite his confession. Then who is he?
You little dum-dum! But I won't arrest you now, I'll let you suffer for a little longer.
Thinking about all this, now Raskolnikov goes to some random tavern and happens to see Svidrigailov. But Raskolnikov does not like this and tries to get up and go away.
Marfa was the best wife ever because I got to do whatever I wanted as long as I told her and stayed married to her. But then Donya came along and I may have had legitimate feelings for her. She's just so pretty and young. But Marfa didn't like that, so we had to get rid of her.
FBI, open up!
Now Svidrigailov is up to his pedophilia again and is marrying a 16-year-old. Let's remember that he's 50.
Svidrigailov gets up to leave, but Raskolnikov just continues to follow him. After finally getting Raskolnikov off of his back, Svidrigailov goes to meet Donya on a weird bridge. Svidrigailov takes Donya to Sonia's secluded apartment with multiple doors unlocked. Hey, your brother is a murderer.
What?
Marry me or I will tell on your brother, and I am not afraid to hurt you.
I'm not afraid either.
Dzurlov picks up the gun that Donya dropped and notices it still has one more bullet. Plot twist, he kills himself with it later.
Meanwhile, Raskolnikov goes to meet Pulcheria. Alright, Mom. I'm gonna leave because I did something really bad and I feel terrible about it.
Okay, son. Be careful. Make good choices.
He heads back home and Dunya is waiting for him. He tells her that Razumihin will take care of her and love her forever. He leaves her and contemplates suicide or confession again.
Before going to the police station, he visits Sonia, almost to convince her that he wasn't good enough for her love. He wanted to scare her so she wouldn't miss him, but she cries anyway. She gives him one of her crosses for good luck. Or something. He visits the police station and confesses, all while Sonia is just crying in a corner.
At the beginning of this part, it's interesting and quite odd to see that Raskolnikov was legitimately guilty about the murders. We see he was breaking the law and his own moral code and did not know what to do about it. However, as for Svidrigailov, this character has committed more transgressions than anyone else through the physical and emotional assaults on vulnerable female figures, which throughout the story, Dostoevsky has presented females as figures of holiness and purity. In previous chapters, he seemed pretty ruthless, but then he goes and gives Sonia all this money out of nowhere once again. He is a morally confusing character. Yet, when we see him end his life, Svidrigailov takes an act of redemption in order to repay for his sins. This is where we see a significant difference between Raskolnikov and Svidrigailov. As a character, Svidrigailov is somewhat nihilistic like Raskolnikov. However, what makes Svidrigailov different than Raskolnikov is that he is able to commit to a form of moral conviction, that is suicide for a purpose, in order to atone with his transgressions, rather than sway back and forth to never find a moral foundation. Svidrigailov is somewhat a reflection of Raskolnikov. If Raskolnikov had actually adopted a nihilistic belief, rather than semi-believe in a nihilistic view. To wrap this up, the book ends like this, a somewhat ham-fisted way to criticize the nihilism movement. Raskolnikov is now in prison in Siberia. He apologizes to Sonia for not treating her well, and promises to love her forever, and hugs her ankles and cries a lot. He spends 7 more years in Siberia, appreciating life and loving Sonia, and embracing suffering as a way of self-transformation. Thank you for watching.